My parents always favored my brother, but when they needed my help, I did something no one expected. Picture this. You're growing up in a house where no matter what you do, straight A's, winning awards, being the good kid, it's never enough. Your parents' eyes always light up for someone else. Your sibling, the golden child, the one who can do no wrong. Now imagine, years later, those same parents, who barely noticed you, come knocking on your door, desperate, saying, "We need your help." What do? Do you turn them away? Do you let the resentment win? Or do you do something so unexpected it flips the whole story upside down? That was me. I'm Alex, and for as long as I can remember, my parents, John and Susan, had a favorite. My older brother, Matt. He was the star quarterback, the charming kid who could talk his way out of anything, the one they bragged about at every Thanksgiving dinner. Me? I was the quiet one, the bookworm, the kid who got a pat on the head if I was lucky. They paid for Matt's college at Harvard. Yes, Harvard. But when it was my turn, it was, sorry, Alex, money's tight. You'll figure it out. And I did. I worked my butt off, got loans, built my own life. But deep down, it stung. Every birthday where Matt got the bigger gift, every holiday where they asked about his life first, it added up. I'd sit there, forcing a smile, while they gushed over Matt's latest touchdown or his prom king crown, wondering if they even knew I existed half the time. It wasn't just the big stuff either. It was the little things that cut deepest, like how Mom would save the last slice of pie for Matt, even if I hadn't had any yet. Or how Dad would spend hours fixing Matt's car, but couldn't spare 10 minutes to help me with a flat tire. I learned early on to fend for myself, to stop expecting their attention. But that didn't make it hurt any less. It built this quiet fire inside me, a mix of anger and determination I didn't even know I had until the day everything changed. I got a call. My mom's voice was shaky, my dad coughing in the background. "Alex, we're in trouble. The diner, Joe's Diner, our family business, it's sinking. Matt's not here. We don't know what to do." I froze. After years of being the afterthought, they were turning to me. Me, the kid they barely noticed. And here's the kicker. I could have said no. I could have walked away and let them figure it out. Part of me wanted to, honestly. Why should I bail them out after all that? But I didn't. I did something no one saw coming. Not them, not Matt, not even myself. And trust me, it wasn't what you'd expect from the kid who'd spent a lifetime in the shadows. Stick around, because this story isn't just about family drama. It's about what happens when the underdog gets a shot to rewrite the script. Oh, and here's something wild to chew on. Did you know 70% of moms admit to having a favorite kid, and 40% of us with siblings swear our parents did too? That's right. Favoritism isn't just my story, it might be yours. Maybe you felt that sting too, that ache of being overlooked. So, what would you do if you were me? Would you step up or step away? Let's dive in and find out what happened next. So, let's rewind a bit and meet the Carters. That's my family. We're your typical middle-class crew from Columbus, Ohio, living in a suburban neighborhood with neatly trimmed lawns and cul-de-sacs where kids ride bikes until the streetlights come on. Picture a two-story house with faded blue siding, a basketball hoop in the driveway, and a backyard where Dad would grill burgers every 4th of July. It sounds like the American dream, right? Well, it was mostly, except for one thing. Inside that house, there was an unspoken rule. Matt was the star, and I, Alex, was just along for the ride. My parents are John and Susan Carter. Dad's 60 now, a gruff guy with calloused hands from years of tinkering with engines and flipping pancakes at Joe's Diner, the family business he and Mom poured their lives into. He's the kind of man who'd rather fix something than talk about it, always wearing a faded Buckeyes cap from his Ohio State days. Mom's 58, softer around the edges, with a laugh that fills the room and a knack for making apple pie that neighbors still talk about. She's the heart of the family, always fussing over us kids, though her fussing had a clear favorite. Together, they built a life that looked solid from the outside. A little diner on the edge of town, serving up coffee and comfort food to locals for decades. Then there's Matt, my older brother. He's 32 now, but back then, he was the golden boy of the Carter clan. 2 years older than me, Matt was the kid every parent dreams of, or at least that's what mine thought. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a grin that could charm anyone. He was the star quarterback of our high school team, the Columbus Cougars. Friday nights under the stadium lights, You'd hear Mom and Dad cheering louder than anyone, waving homemade signs with his jersey number, 12. Matt wasn't just good at sports, though. He had this effortless way of winning people over, teachers, friends, even the grumpy old cashier at the grocery store. To my parents, he was their pride and joy, their firstborn who could do no wrong. And me? I'm Alex, 30 now, the younger sibling who didn't quite fit the mold. Where Matt was loud and outgoing, I was quiet, nose always in a book or scribbling ideas in a notebook. I wasn't bad looking, I guess, average height, dark hair, but I didn't have that spotlight glow Matt did. I was the kid who aced every test, won the science fair 3 years running, even gave the valedictorian speech at graduation. But none of that seemed to register the same way Matt's touchdowns did. I wasn't jealous, not exactly. Okay, maybe a little. Mostly, I just wanted to be seen, to feel like I mattered as much as he did. But in the Carter house, there was Matt, the sun, and me, kind of like the moon, always there but rarely noticed. That's how it started. A family that looked picture perfect, except for the cracks you only see up close. And those cracks? They'd get a whole lot bigger before this story's done. Okay, so now you've met the Carters. You've got the picture of our little Ohio life, the diner, the cul-de-sacs, the whole deal. But let's get into the nitty-gritty, the moments that made it crystal clear where I stood in the family pecking order. Because it wasn't just a feeling. It was real, tangible stuff that piled up over the years, little cuts that turned into scars I didn't even realize I was carrying until much later. Let's start with birthdays. You know how birthdays are supposed to be your day, right? Well, Matt's were events. His 16th? Mom and Dad went all out. They surprised him with a brand new Ford Mustang, cherry red, parked in the driveway with a giant bow on it like something out of a movie. The neighbors came over, there were balloons, a cake with football icing, the works. I remember standing there, 14 years old, watching him rev the engine while Dad clapped him on the back, grinning ear to ear. My 16th? A totally different story. I got a used bike, a Schwinn with chipped paint and a wobbly chain. Mom handed me the key to the lock and said, "It's practical, Alex. You can ride it to school." No party, no crowd, just a quiet dinner where Matt still managed to steal the spotlight by announcing he'd made varsity again. I pedaled that bike home from school in the rain more times than I can count, wondering why practical was good enough for me, but not for him. Then there was college. This one still stings when I think about it. Matt graduated high school with decent grades, nothing spectacular, but he had the football stats and the chart. Mom and Dad decided he deserved the best, so they scraped together every penny they had, took out a second loan on the house, and sent him to Harvard. Harvard. I mean, I get it. It's a big deal, but they talked about it like he'd won the Nobel Prize for doing it again. When my turn came, I'd worked my tail off, 4.0 GPA, I got into Ohio State, not Ivy League, but still a solid school. I was so excited, thinking maybe this was my life. No, I sat down with Mom and Dad, application in hand, and they just sighed. "Alex, we can't swing it right now," Dad said, rubbing his temples. "The diner's tight, and Matt's tuition wiped us out. You'll have to figure it out." Figure it out? I was 18. So I did. I took out loans, worked nights at a gas station, ate ramen for 3 years straight. Meanwhile, Matt was posting pics from Cambridge, living the dream, no debt, no worries, all because Mom and Dad bet on him instead of me. It wasn't just the big stuff either. The little moments added up too. Take Thanksgiving, our big family holiday. Every year, we'd sit around the table, turkey and mashed potatoes piled high, and Mom would start the gratitude round. Without fail, she'd tear up talking about Matt. "I'm so thankful for Matt's touchdown that won the homecoming game," or "Matt's internship in Chicago. He's going places." Dad would nod, chime in with, "That's our boy." Me? I'd mention something, maybe how I'd won a science fair or landed a scholarship, and it'd get a quick, "Oh, that's nice, Alex," before the conversation swung back to Matt. One year, I'd just gotten an award for a marketing project, a big deal at school, and I brought it up. Mom smiled, said, "Good job, honey," then turned to Matt and asked about his new apartment. I just sat there, poking at my stuffing, feeling like a guest at my own table. Even the small, everyday things showed it. If Matt forgot his lunch, Mom would drive 20 minutes to school with a packed sandwich and a Coke. If I forgot mine, it was, "You're old enough to remember, Alex." Matt got new cleats every season. I wore the same sneakers until the soles flapped. And don't get me started on Christmas. His pile of gifts was always taller, flashier, stuff like video game consoles or leather jackets. Mine? Socks, a calculator, maybe a book if I was lucky. I'd joke about it, say, guess I'm the practical one. But inside, it was like a punch to the gut every time. Now, I don't want you to think I hated Matt. He wasn't a jerk about it, not really. He'd toss me a grin, say, "You're the smart one, Alex," like that made it okay. But it didn't. It wasn't his fault Mom and Dad put him on a pedestal. He just got to enjoy the view while I was stuck down below, trying to climb up with no ladder. And over time, that gap between us, it grew. I got quieter, worked harder, built my own little world where I didn't need their approval. But deep down, I was waiting for a chance, any chance, to show them I was more than the backup kid. Little did I know, that chance was coming, and it had hit like a freight train. So, there I was, years after pedaling that wobbly bike and eating ramen through college, finally feeling like I'd carved out my own space. I was 30, living in a decent apartment in Columbus, working a steady marketing job that paid the bills, and then some. I'd built a life away from the shadow of Matt's spotlight, or at least I thought I had. Mom and Dad were still running Joe's Diner. Matt was off in Chicago living his corporate dream, and I figured we'd all just keep orbiting our separate worlds. But life has a funny way of pulling you back in when you least expect it. And for me, that pull came with a phone call that flipped everything upside down. Fast forward to that Tuesday night. Nothing special, just me scrolling through my phone after work. The screen lit up with Mom's number, which wasn't unusual. She'd call sometimes to check in. But this time, her voice was different, shaky, like she was holding back tears. "Alex, we're in trouble," she said. I sat up straight, heart pounding a little. "What's wrong? Is Dad okay?" She took a breath, and I could hear Dad coughing in the background, that rough smoker's hack he'd had for years. "It's the diner, Joe's Diner. It's sinking. We're losing money every month, and we don't know what to do." I didn't say anything at first, just let her words sink in. Joe's Diner wasn't just a business. It was their life, their legacy, the place they'd poured every spare dime into since before Matt and I were born. Now, let me paint you a picture of Joe's Diner. It's this little spot on the edge of Columbus, just off the main drag, with a neon sign that flickered more than it glowed. Inside, you've got red vinyl booths, a jukebox that still played Elvis and Patsy Cline, and a counter where regulars sipped black coffee and swapped gossip. Dad ran the grill, flipping burgers and frying eggs, while Mom waited tables, her apron stained with years of ketchup and gravy. It wasn't fancy, but it was theirs, a slice of small-town America that felt like home to half the neighborhood. Growing up, I'd spend hours there, doing homework in a corner booth or sweeping floors for pocket money. It was where Matt learned to charm customers and where I learned to stay out of the way. But now, that place was crumbling. Here's the thing. Things had been going downhill for a while. A new strip mall opened up a mile away, with a shiny Starbucks and a trendy burger joint that served artisanal buns and craft beer. Joe's couldn't compete. The regulars still came, sure, but younger folks, the ones with money to spend, they wanted Instagram-worthy avocado toast, not greasy spoon hash browns. Dad tried to keep up, but he was stubborn, stuck on the old menu, saying, "This is what people want, always has been." Mom told me they'd dipped into savings, skipped bills, even let a couple of waitresses go. And then there was the building itself, leaking roof, busted AC, repairs piling up they couldn't afford. They were drowning, and they knew it. Adding to the mess, Mom's voice cracked as she kept talking. "Matt's not here, Alex. He's busy in Chicago, says he can't get away. We thought he'd take over someday, keep it in the family. But he's got his own life now." I could hear the disappointment in her tone, like Matt had let them down for the first time ever. And then she hit me with it. "We need you, Alex. You're good with ideas, with that marketing stuff. Can you help us?" I almost dropped the phone. Help them? After everything? The Mustang, the college loans, the years of being the backup kid? My first instinct was to laugh, maybe even hang up. I mean, why me? Why now? Matt was their golden boy, their future. I was just the one who figured it out. But as she kept pleading, I started picturing the diner empty, the sign dark, the booths gathering dust. I thought about Dad flipping burgers in that sweaty kitchen, Mom smiling at customers even when her feet ached. I thought about all the times I'd sat there as a kid, watching them build something, even if they didn't build much for me. And yeah, part of me was mad, really mad. They'd never asked me for anything big before, never acted like I had something worth giving. Now they were desperate, and suddenly I was their lifeline? It didn't feel fair. It felt like a slap in the face wrapped in a cry for help. By the time I hung up, I told Mom I'd think about it, and just sat there, staring at the wall. My mind was spinning. Walk away, and I'd prove I didn't need them, that I'd moved on. Step in, and I'd be wading back into a mess that wasn't mine to fix. Or was it? I kept hearing Dad's cough, Mom's shaky voice. I kept seeing that diner, the one piece of the Carters that tied us all together, slipping away. And somewhere in that mess of feelings, resentment, guilt, maybe even a little hope, an idea started to form. Not just any idea, but one that'd change everything. They had no clue what was coming, and honestly, neither did I. After that call from Mom, I sat in my apartment, her words still ringing in my ears. I told her I'd think about it, but honestly, I didn't know where to start. Part of me wanted to let Joe's Diner sink, let them feel the weight of betting on Matt all those years while I figured things out alone. But another part, quieter at first, kept nagging at me. What if I could do something? What if this was my shot to show them, and maybe myself, that I wasn't just the backup kid? That night, I barely slept, flipping between resentment and this crazy spark of an idea that wouldn't let go. Come morning, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to walk away, not yet. I called Mom back and said, "Okay, I'll help, but we're doing it my way." She sounded surprised, maybe even relieved, and Dad grunted something like, "Whatever you think, Alex." I could tell they didn't expect much, probably figured I'd toss them a few bucks or some half-baked advice. But I had a plan, a real one, born from years of watching trends, studying marketing, and knowing what people my age actually wanted. I wasn't just going to patch up the diner. I was going to turn it around, make it something they'd never seen coming. That's when things got wild. I took a week off work, drove out to the diner, and walked in with a notebook full of ideas. The place looked worse than I'd imagined. Peeling paint, a faint smell of burnt grease. Only 2 customers nursing coffee at the counter. Dad was at the grill, flipping a burger with that same tired look, and Mom hovered nearby, wiping down a table that didn't need it. I sat them down and laid it out. "We're rebranding," I said. "New logo, new menu, social media, the works. This isn't just a diner anymore. It's a destination." They stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Dad snorted, "Avocado toast? TikTok? That's not us." Mom just frowned. "We don't have the money, Alex." But I wasn't backing down. I'd crunched the numbers, called in favors, even dipped into my own savings. This was happening. For the next few weeks, I went all in. I hired a local designer friend to whip up a fresh logo, something retro cool with a neon vibe that'd pop on Instagram. We revamped the menu, kept some classics like Dad's Burgers, but added stuff like vegan sliders, sweet potato fries, and a coffee flight for the caffeine crowd. I taught Mom how to use a smartphone camera, got her snapping pics of the food, and set up TikTok and Instagram accounts for Joe's. I posted videos, me behind the counter joking about resurrecting a dinosaur, quick clips of Dad grumbling, but flipping a perfect pancake. People started liking, sharing, commenting. A few locals even showed up, curious about the buzz. Pretty soon, things started to shift. Slowly at first, a trickle of new faces, college kids, young families, folks who'd never set foot in Joe's before. The vegan sliders sold out one night, and Dad, still skeptical, had to admit, "Guess they like that green stuff." I pushed harder, ran a throwback night, with half-priced milkshakes and a playlist of Mom's old jukebox tunes. That packed the place, standing room only, and I caught Mom smiling, really smiling, for the first time in months. I reached out to a food blogger I knew from work, pitched a story about the diner's comeback, and she wrote it up. Next thing we knew, a local news crew showed up, filming Dad at the grill, Mom chatting with customers, me in the background tweaking the Instagram live feed. They called it the little diner that could. And suddenly, we were trending. Within 2 months, Joe's wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. The numbers didn't lie. Revenue was up 60%, enough to fix the roof, pay the bills, even hire back a waitress. Customers lined up on weekends, snapping pics of their food, tagging us online. Dad stopped grumbling as much, started experimenting with a new burger recipe. Mom kept saying, "I can't believe it, Alex," like she was seeing me for the first time. Me? I felt this weird mix of pride and exhaustion. I'd done it, pulled off something no one expected, least of all them, but I wasn't sure what it meant for us, for the family. Because the diner wasn't the only thing that needed saving, and I was starting to realize that. Reflecting on it now, that crazy idea wasn't just about the diner. It was about proving something, maybe to them, definitely to myself. I'd spent years feeling like the odd one out, the kid who didn't shine bright enough. But standing there, watching Joe's come back to life, I saw what I could do when I stopped waiting for their approval. They hadn't asked for a miracle, hadn't thought I had it in me. But I did. And what came next, how they reacted, how Matt fit into it, that's where this story takes its next turn. With Joe's Diner back on its feet, you'd think the story could end there, a neat little bow on a messy family tale. Revenue was steady, customers kept coming, and the place had a buzz it hadn't seen in years. But real life doesn't tie up that easy, especially not with the Carters. I'd pulled off something big, something no one saw coming, and it left ripples I hadn't expected. The diner was saved, sure, but what about us? That's where things got complicated. Right after the news crew left, Mom and Dad started acting different. Mom kept hugging me, saying stuff like, "Alex, you're a miracle worker." Her eyes misty like she was proud, really proud, for once. Dad was quieter about it, but he'd nod at me across the grill, mutter, "Good work, kid," which was about as close to a compliment as he got. It felt good, I won't lie, hearing that after years of being the invisible one. But it also felt strange, almost too late. I'd spent so long building my own world without their praise, and now that I had it, I wasn't sure what to do with it. Did it change anything, or was it just words? Then came Matt's visit, and that stirred the pot even more. He rolled into town a few weeks later, all slick in his Chicago suit, saying he'd heard about the diner's comeback. He walked in, saw the new logo, the packed booths, and his jaw dropped a little. "You did this?" he asked, half impressed, half like he couldn't believe it. I shrugged, said, "Yeah, somebody had to." He laughed, clapped me on the shoulder, but I caught a flicker in his eyes, maybe jealousy, maybe guilt. Mom and Dad fussed over him like always, but this time, they kept pulling me into it. "Tell Matt how you got the news here, Alex." It was weird, being the center for once, and Matt didn't seem to know how to handle it either. Looking at it all now, the diner's success changed things, but not the way I dreamed as a kid. Mom and Dad saw me differently, started asking my opinion on little things, like paint colors or a new special. Matt texted me later, something vague about catching up soon, though I doubt he meant it. The resentment I'd carried, it didn't vanish, but it softened a bit, like a knot loosening. I'd proven I could step up, not just to them, but to myself. Still, there was this quiet ache, a sense that we'd never fully fix what favoritism broke. The diner stood strong, a testament to what I could do, but our family? That was still a work in progress, and I wasn't sure where we'd land. Stepping back from it all, saving Joe's Diner taught me more than I ever expected, not just about marketing or diner food, but about myself and this tangled thing called family. I went into it with a chip on my shoulder, years of feeling like the less favored kid fueling every move I made. And yeah, turning that place around felt incredible, like a big, "I told you so" to everyone who'd overlooked me. But it wasn't the clean win I'd imagined as a kid, dreaming of the day they'd finally see me. It was messier, more human. I proved I could step up, sure, but it didn't erase the past. It just changed the lens I saw it through. Honestly, that's what hit me hardest, realizing how deep favoritism cuts, even when it's not intentional. Growing up, I thought it was just me being sensitive, that I should have shrugged off Matt getting the Mustang or the Harvard fund while I scraped by. But looking back, those weren't little things. They shaped me, made me tougher, maybe a little guarded, but they also left this quiet hurt I carried way too long. When Mom and Dad turned to me in that crisis, part of me wanted to say, "Where were you when I needed you?" Yet seeing their gratitude, hearing Dad's gruff, "Good work," it softened something. Not all the way, but enough to make me wonder if they'd just never known how to show they cared about me too. Widening the lens a bit, favoritism isn't just a Carter family problem, it's everywhere. I dug into it after all this, and the numbers blew my mind. Studies say 70% of moms admit to having a favorite kid, and 40% of us with siblings swear we felt it growing up. That's almost half of us walking around with some version of my story, feeling like we didn't measure up, because someone else got the spotlight. It's not always about cars or college money either. Sometimes it's the extra hug, the louder cheer, the way a parent's face lights up for one kid and not the other. And the kicker? Parents usually don't even see it. Mom and dad probably thought they were just supporting Matt's strengths, not dimming mine. But that doesn't mean the damage isn't real. Here's where it gets tricky, though. What do you do with that damage? For me, saving the diner was my way of flipping the script. It wasn't about revenge or rubbing it in their faces, though I won't lie, that crossed my mind. It was about taking control, showing myself I didn't need their approval to shine. And yeah, it worked. Joe's is thriving. They're proud. Matt's even a little rattled. But if I'm being real, it didn't fix everything. We're closer now. Mom calls more. Dad listens when I talk. But there's still this echo of all those years I felt invisible. Maybe that's just how it goes. You can mend a crack, but the mark stays. Thinking bigger, I believe this whole mess taught me something worth sharing. Favoritism might knock you down, but it doesn't have to define you. I could have stayed bitter, let Joe's sink, walked away with my head high and my heart cold. Instead, I chose to build something, not for them, but for me. That's the win I'm holding on to, not their applause, but knowing I'm enough, with or without it. Studies back this up too. Kids who feel less favored often grow up more independent, resilient, because we have to. It's not fair, but it's a strength we earn the hard way. Bringing it home, I guess my takeaway is this. We've all got our scars, favoritism or otherwise, and what matters is what we do with them. I turned mine into a diner comeback, a chance to stand tall when they least expected it. Maybe it didn't heal everything, maybe it never will, but it gave me a piece of myself I didn't know I'd lost. So now I'm tossing it to you, because I know I'm not alone in this. Have you ever felt like the less favored one? In your family, your friend group, anywhere? How did you deal with it? Did you fight to prove them wrong, or find your own path? Drop your stories in the comments. Let's talk about it. I'd love to hear how you turned your cracks into something strong.